Hello everyone. Today we'll discuss with Mr. Anders, who is our speaker in this channel, who is going to share the experience and knowledge and pro tips with our viewer. So basically, this session we have created for the software testing community user who wants to start their career in software testing, and based on the experience level, they will switch on some technologies. So basically, today's session we have created for BDD and left shift technology which we are using in day-to-day life at the time of testing. So let me introduce our about the speaker. So Mr. Anders Worm is from the Germany. He is working with head issues from last 10 years. So, and apart of that, he is very much active on LinkedIn and YouTube. He is also running his own channel for sharing his knowledge and experience with community. So over to you, Mr. Anders. First, you can introduce about something about yourself, then we can proceed with these sessions.
Yeah, hi. Firstly, thanks a lot for having me. Um, yeah, I'm Andreas, and I've been working for like 10 years as a software developer with a huge focus on quality in general and test automation. Um, yeah, and I recently started my journey in I don't know sharing my knowledge and experience. So I'm totally happy to be here and talk a little bit about BDD and Shift Left because that's the main areas where I think I can help some of the testers out there.
Okay, thank you, Anders, for joining this session and sharing your experience and knowledge with our community. So, before starting with this detail, can we get some small introduction about left shaped or small detail about left shaped and BDD?
Small introduction about Left Shift.
Yeah.
When you think about the software development life cycle, um, usually in like pretty waterfalling projects, you have some kind of requirements gathering phase. You really plan them, write them out, what should be developed. Then you have the development phase, and after that you have like your testing phases, and everything should work according to the documentation. But that's not the very agile way of building software, and not a very efficient way. So the yeah, I would say the general consensus is that it's more efficient uh, to shift left all these different activities we are doing, and there's a lot you can shift left, and shift left in regards to testing is yeah, it's what and BDD is. It's what makes you agile, what forces you to be agile, and it basically means involving tests much earlier in the software development life cycle. This is like this shift left. You're moving the important things to more to the start. Um, so instead of having your QA phases and your code freezes and all these things, um, yeah, you basically get rid of it all and do as much. When we're talking about testing, you're doing as many of the testing activities much earlier in the life cycle, parallel to development if possible. Um, yeah, and that's basically what shift left means, doing everything more early in parallel just to have faster feedback and to be able to react faster.
Okay, so let me summarize about the content of left shapes. So whenever we are doing any project and we have started or we have planned for the testing phases, development phases, post that the testing. So finding the issues or finding the or making the product inside the quality better, we can perform the action which we are doing at the testing phase. We will do it at the development phase.
If
Yeah,
possible, yes.
yeah.
There are a few things you can't really test without having a product, but there are a lot of things you can. There are a lot of bugs you can catch early by
Yes, yes.
getting on board forever.
definitely.
And the notion is that you can't test quality into a product. You have to build quality in from the beginning. And it's much easier to build something with quality and testing in mind than to change it later to care for your quality needs.
Yeah. So changing is a bit more tedious job whenever we are getting in the production or any environment. So better we can fix that issue in the earlier phases, or we can make sure the product is in the quality product, so that it will not occur any issue in the latter phases. So let's start with first question. When we are talking about the left shift, so how do you implement left shift in any project?
Well, I don't know if you should do it in any project, but a lot of projects could benefit from that. And usually I would refer to these things as yeah, caring about the flow of your work and doing small increments. So usually the big problem with this whole this waterfally projects is that you have like um, I don't know, a list of features you build for half a year and you want to release, and after these 5 months, you have 1 month of QA and code freeze and stabilization and whatever these phases are called. Um, and this is really inefficient because you have you will find things, and this will lead to rework within the development team, which hasn't had a look at the code in like 5 months, and they are not really into the problem. They are not in the mind to care about this problem because it's all long gone. And usually to address that, I would recommend doing work in much smaller increments. So when you have like 30 features for release, you start by I don't know, for next release maybe try 25. This will also already decrease the whole test effort and the whole rework. And when you have 2 weeks of testing phases, maybe try to move a few activities out, try to shift them left and reduce it to 1.5 week, reduce it to 1 week, and see if you can incrementally get to a point where your testing is just like is measured in hours and can be is basically just parallel to development. Um, so you really get this kind of yeah, one piece flow, how where you take one change, move it through development, through testing, and release it immediately. So you have really the fastest feedback loops. The latest information that's available right now and can be addressed. Any information you get can really be addressed because everyone is in their problem solving mind for this problem exactly. And so that's no rework, no context switching, no waste. So
So
that's
in
really
when we talk about the any shift left or any project, whenever we are having a quality product in since the beginning, then we will not find any issue in the later phases. So it will always recommended to use the this technology or the framework or the in the earlier phases, so that we will get the quality product at the end.
yeah. It's not, you don't catch everything. You can never catch everything. And that's just not doable. But the earlier you define quality and you find something that doesn't adhere to your definition, um, the more cost effective it is. You know that bugs bugs get exponentially more costly the later
Yes.
you find them. Um,
Okay.
some you can only find in production, but many of the bugs we get are, or many of the instances of rework and negative surprises between business and development is because of miscommunication and because of uncertainties. You have
Okay.
to yeah, you have to figure that out in the beginning. So at the end, the business doesn't say, "Oh, that's not what I ordered. That's not what I wanted to develop. What have you built here?" Um, so Shift Left is also about getting everyone on the same level when we start developing. so nobody has negative surprises in the end, which leads to rework and frustration, and yeah, it's just inefficient.
Yep. So even though experts also said that whenever we are finding any issue in the earlier phases, it is costing a smaller piece of any budgeting. But when we are finding these type of issue in the production or in the latter phases, it will multiply by 6 or 7 times of cost. So that's the main reason better we can find it out in the early phases, maybe in the unit testing or in other part of it. It's not totally about the only testing phases. It's always related with documentation as well as development phases. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's move to the second part or second questions. How this will benefit for project whose revenue is higher expected by the organizations.
Hmm. Well, that's also not really about shift left. It's more the delivering value fast. It's more about the agile way of we are producing, we are delivering value very fast. So when you the big projects which yeah, they which go for half a year, for 2 years or longer, they usually suffer from um, yeah, unclear requirements, people um, creating requirements for something they don't really know is valuable, and in the end everyone is panicked because, oh my god, we have to hit the deadline, and we are getting scared we won't make it, and we have, I don't know, we have to work overtime, people are stressed, and quality is declining, and yeah, we need to reduce scope, we need more people, and it's all a big chaos, and in the end there will be something hopefully delivered, and nobody exactly knows if it's valuable for the consumer. So shift left and smaller increments and all these things are about getting feedback fast. So instead of 6 months, try maybe put something out within a month, just to yeah, get feedback about how your consumers, how your users, how your customers are reacting to it. And the I don't know, the financial benefit is for me pretty obvious. You're putting something out, and you can test it in terms of how does the market react, and instead of like spending half a year of budget for something you don't know anything about how to perform, you invest just 1 month of budget, and after that you can check your assumptions, move into a different direction if needed. And if it's really good, if you're really providing value with your first I don't know, MVP, um, there's the possibility you already get money back. You can reinvest into development. So after your your gain starts after 1 month instead of 6, and this will add up, and you're delivering everything every month, and it will just get more. So if you develop something of value, the your customers will happily engage and will give you money to continue the development further. So it's just less risky, I would say. You're, instead of making a bet for 6 months, you're betting 1 month of work to do something valuable, and you already get something back. And if not, you just lost a month instead of 6.
Yes. So basically, we are saving time as well. So let's take an example, one example here. If we are okay to go ahead with any mobile application, and that mobile application move to production, and or in the beta phases, not only for the production, there are various phases which is going live for the end user or the consumer. So if the consumer find this defect or found any issue in between beta phases of production, then they will assign to the developer again. That fixed issue will go with the multiple iteration, which will again kill a time as well. So it is not impacting only with the cost. The time is also important. It will again impact with the delivery timelines, which the organization committed for the delivery to the end user. Yeah. So let's move to the third question. What is the best practices or what all the best practices we can implement at the time of shift left testing?
But for shift left testing, usually what I don't know, I'm biased because that's what I really care about, but I would say, yeah, just please practice BDD, because that's one area where really the misconceptions and assumptions result in bugs, so you should really practice that. um, there there may be totally different things, but that's what I would like to talk about. um, so um, by practicing BDD and test-driven development, you really um, align everyone involved in the development process on a specific goal, and this really focuses the way you work and leads to, yeah, um, making things not as complex, and focusing on providing this specific value you talked about it at the beginning. You really talk it out, and you will discover when you're creating these examples, how something should behave, how the value is delivered. You will already find many questions and uncertainties, and you address them um, right right now, and not later when development says they are half done, and then QA checks the assumptions and has questions, and we have to go back to our business analysts and product owners and ask them, no, you're doing it right from the start. You're creating a plan um, in, yeah, in sufficient detail with still maybe a few question marks, but um, figuring these things out the BDD way really helps you not running into surprises later.
Okay. So let's move to the fourth question. When we are talking about the testing strategy, so how we can implement, or what shift left and continuous testing implementation mean for testing strategy? So whenever we are starting with the QA phases or UAT phases for any product, so definitely they have to be keep in mind that how they can implement shift left and continuous testing process.
Hmm. Well, it's hard to say for established projects how to move these things, but everything is easier when you start anew. And when you start anew for creating a test strategy for a new product, the more agile way of doing it would be to not create like your 30-page document at the beginning about who does what when, and nobody reads it in the end. Um, it's like everything else, much more collaborative um, task, and yeah, and you will more often read it again and revisit it again. So it's your testing strategy will still contain the whole what do we do, when we will do it, who will do it, and how. Um, but it's not 30 pages. It's maybe just 2 pages of mission statements, and then you, yeah, based on your environment, you can trust the team to do all these things and figure out how to do them. Um, there are, maybe you're working in the medical field or whatever, there may be some compliance issues you just can't avoid. Okay. But for all the other things, yeah, you just sit together. And i'm I'm a big fan of games, so I really like the Wisp storming game, where the business stakeholders and other people just come together and talk about, like, what are the biggest risks to our product, how do we address them, when and how, and you will figure that out together. So the business side of things can give input regarding their prioritization of security and risk issues, um, and yeah, and they will and everyone there can subscribe to this strategy, and yeah, can give the business the assurance that these risks are addressed in a sufficient manner. And if you get new information about new risk areas you didn't know before, just go back to the plan, talk about risk again, talk about how to address it, and update your strategy accordingly.
So definitely that is going to be a continuous testing for the QA team or UL team. So basically they have to plan accordingly, and whenever they will found these type of issue, or basically these type of continuous testing is appearing when use, as you said, is right, in the compliance or infosec perspective, when the project is related with the data or privacy content. So that's the main reason. Okay, so let's move to the fifth questions. What are the three best practices for BDD?
I don't. There are not really. I don't know if there are three best practices. There's mm, well, BDD is usually distinguished in different phases. Um, the I don't know what was discovery phase, where you talk and talk about requirements and changes and create examples, and then you have the formulation phase where you turn your requirements into something that you can easily automate, and then the automation phase. Um, but there's a lot more. You have some different feedback cycles included there, and yeah, one think best practice is what you call the three Amigo session, where you, in the beginning, when you talk about a change and the requirement, you bring in together different viewpoints. Usually, the documents talk about, like, you need a business analyst and you need a QA person and you need a developer, but these are not very set in stone. These are more like roles. You have to bring in people with different roles. Want people to make a change request, want to brainstorm different solutions, and want to, yeah, challenge these assumptions and make sure we have a way to um, test our assumptions and test the value we provide.
So basically, it's
So
an expert's view who can provide the or who can mitigate the technology point of view as well as the product point of view.
yeah,
Both are required. Yes.
yeah. Yeah, you need these three viewpoints, and it's not about bringing in three people. You just have to have all roles present, and it might make sense to have more than three people and have some, I don't know, subject matter experts present which can answer questions. And yeah, as long as everyone is engaged and participating, it's fine. And yeah, sure, you take care not to include too many people, not to make it too confusing. But yeah, so the um, yeah, I talked little bit about the discovery phase, where you sit in your three Amigo session and talk about the change, and you will create really um, tangible examples. You will really talk about the product, create tangible examples, what user does what, and how what are the results of that, why is this valuable. um, there are some different methods, like example mapping and feature mapping you can do, creating examples and counter examples. And in the end, you will come up with something that looks basically like Gherkin. Um, so you you might formulate your requirements into something like a given when then structure. It's pretty popular, I guess. Um, and these can be used to, yeah, to feed your test automation. Um, but what some documents on the internet are missing is the whole feedback loop. So in the end, you need a few feedback loops for turning, when you turn it into, when you turn the requirements and the examples into something you can automate. You should feed it back to the business to align, if you to make sure you're still on the same page, you're still speaking the same language. And when you're done automating and implementing, you should feed that back to the business as well as documentation and as demoing the features. So there are um, some information feedback loops you need to have here.
Okay. So you have mentioned many important points here related to BDD. But if you are talking about any important point, why to use BDD framework in any of the criteria, or so why it is
Um,
mandatory to use it? There are several technologies are available. Why you are recommending for the viewer why to use this? Any specific point you want to mention it here?
well, you can do this all without an BDD framework, but BDD frameworks yeah, offer different convenience method to turn like your texts, your yeah, natural language texts into automation code. So when you think about I don't know, gherkin and cucumber, you basically create the high level automation test steps in your three Amigo session, and the whole reporting, the reporting integrations and plugins will, um, yeah, will result in a test document, test report that caters to this kind of how we define tests, and we yeah, have different features that do like um, tell us our feature coverage, or which integrate very well into your CI pipeline, and maybe create automatic issues in your Jira when something goes wrong. So BDD frameworks offer a little bit of, yeah, convenience integrations.
So how this framework fast track in the testing work?
Um, um, fast track. Well, it's not really about doing things faster. I think it's more about doing useful things. So usually um, you have test automation in place to, yeah, alert you of unwanted changes, of any change having an unwanted effect. Um, and if you have a good coverage and good engineering and good automation, these these tests give you confidence. And with BDD and ATDD, you really make sure that the whole critical business flows, the path where you provide the most value and which are used by 80% of your users, are covered and will always be covered with every commit. So you can focus on, yeah, more engaging things. The when you, especially if you talk about like test teams, um, they get the ability to do what's yeah, intellectually engaging. You don't have to redo all the functional regression tests every day. You really can focus on exploration and usability tests, and do real user tests, and yeah, whatever is valuable, more valuable than just checking the same functional things day in and day out. So you should that's should be much less frustrating than, yeah, just going through the same test script day after day.
Okay. So let's move to the eighth question. So which all tools are possible to use for the BDD?
Many. So when you when you read up on BDD,
Maybe you can highlight for the 2 to 3 or 4 which
um,
you love to use that.
what I would love to use is definitely Serenity, and it's like it's a BDD framework which implements the screenplay pattern, um, which is describing like given when then type scenarios in yeah, user centric. What actor does what when, and what are the results. But I guess the most common is yeah, Cucumber, or in other languages, what is it, Specflow or something like that. Um, JBehave is also another Java based BDD framework. Yeah, so there are a lot, but I'm a big fan of
Serenity and Cucumber is the main.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Cucumber. I find it a bit undry. When you're having your feature scenarios and you have to um, duplicate your descriptions in the code again, and you have to map these texts to your test methods, to your step methods. But I'm totally fine with that. I think it's a great way to do it. I'm just more used to the screenplay pattern where you do things a little bit differently. But yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So finally, this is not the last. Least we can say that we are going to cover a nice question here. So how to continuously integrate BDD framework regularly? So just say that if we are having implemented or created BDD framework in our real life, and we want to integrate or upgrade regular basis. So how we can do that? Is it easier way, or we have to do many coding or scripting type of work for this?
Hmm. I use because every BDD framework has a simple way. Okay, when you're talking about continuous integration, we are talking about really yeah, CI pipelines. You're working on a specific code
Okay.
base, and you're um, doing automated checks to ensure every yeah, what I said about the business critical path are covered and are working as expected. Um, so running them is usually pretty easy because every CI pipeline is able to run these tests. So your biggest problem is usually how to build your system in a way that you can run them consistently. And what I've seen is that yeah, many places have like very weak hardware. Your demo system is running on weak hardware, and the Selenium grid is running on weak hardware, and you got a lot of flaky tests. And yeah, you're doing Selenium tests only because that's how you do end to end, right? Yeah, no, it's not. But when I imagine a good CI pipeline, then your acceptance tests are not done in Selenium. They'll start much earlier, nearer, closer to the code base and closer to the business logic. And yeah, in the best case, are really running against your backend services. So they are like lightning fast, and you can I don't know, you can run them externally as well through REST APIs or CLI, which is still faster than browser based. Um, yeah, but then you need to figure out that how to make your demo stages and your UAT stages and whatever capable to handle that, to run automated tests. Or you, uh, what I most, what I'm a big fan of is like creating short-lived instances of your application just to run the integration tests and kill them again. Um, yeah, that's what I would consider a good CI pipeline. Also, the whole feedback time. Most
Okay.
I've seen places where like Selenium tests are running for 2 hours and then everything fails or you don't know what, and you're pushing a change, and then after 2 hours you get your feedback if the change has produced any problem. That's not how it's supposed to be. My I don't know, my hard timeline is like 10 minutes. When I push a change, and I go for a smoke, or go grab a coffee and have a little small talk, I will get back into my desk and will start a new task, and then everything becomes rework. So if my CI pipeline needs 20 minutes to fail, I'm already moved on in my brain, and I've wiped everything from before from my short-term memory. So this is what I would consider rework and waste. So you really should aim to have the feedback as quick as possible.
It is a continuous implementation, continuous development,
And
CI/CD pipeline. Yeah, definitely. So, which tool you are using for this? Jenkins or any other tool you have used?
it doesn't matter. I've used Jenkins. I like Jenkins a lot. I've used Circus CI or GitLab Actions, all these things. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it feels like every CI tool pretty much has the same features. You just have to figure out how to do it in
Yes,
everyone.
yes.
Um, but
So basically, the logic is same, and the UI, as you said, it's almost same for every tool. Just the brand name is different, or the application or tool name is different. That's
Right.
okay. Thanks a lot, Anders, for sharing all your experience and your expertise and flow tips. Do you want to share any thing specific point to for the viewer, or we can say that it's a pro tip from your side related to BDD and Shift Left?
Yeah, just do it. Do BTD and do development ATDD style. So practice BDD and then first figure out how do we make sure we can test that our change has the intended effect. Then write the test first, and then start developing. This will bring you so much focus in your development work, and don't forget to the refactor step in test-driven development. Some people don't remember that. So you to really be efficient, you really have to care about the quality of your code and readability and maintainability, and so you don't get bogged down by technical debt and can just really get into the flow. Write easy. Writing tests should feel easy, and yeah, care about your code quality.
Thank you again, Anders, for sharing all your tips with our viewer. So, for the viewer, I will recommend to refer Mr. Anders' channel in from the description tab. You can find out the interesting and creative videos on Shift Left or BDD framework. So, if you are really interested to learn about from the detail, better you can refer Mr. Anders. Thank you, Anders.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks a lot
joining
for
the
having me.
channel.
Have a good day.